All right, let's have a martial arts discussion. Let's do some fighting here. Another edition of Them's Fighting Words here on the Izzo Wing Chun channel. Thanks for joining and watching and having all that good stuff. I got Coach Rob Rowland hanging out with me today. We're going to talk about all things martial arts. Obviously, we're going to do some fighting words. So number one, thanks for joining me today. How the hell are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. I love your channel, love your show. So I'm excited to be here.
You don't get offended by my stuff? You don't ever be like, oh my God, shut up.
No, I've been watching your stuff for years now at this point. You know, you were kind of one of the proto angry YouTubers, angry martial arts YouTubers.
Oh my God,
things.
I've never heard that.
That's entertaining. That's fun. I love that shit.
I've never heard that before. Well, the angry YouTubers. I get a lot of people who comment on that, and they can't stand my mini obsession with disliking Bruce Lee and whatnot, but what are you going to do? Rob Rowland.
That's a strong stance to take. I love that, though.
We'll get into that because I'm very curious about what yours is and whatnot. Coach Rob Rowland, he is I'm going to pull this up here for a second. He is, where is my button for this? I want to get you, I got to find you somewhere on here. I'll find it up in a second. You have Combat Self-Defense on YouTube. That's your channel, Combat Self-Defense. Tell us a little bit about your channel, promote it, and let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, Combat Self-Defense is a martial arts channel which originally gestated as just being a focus on the combative element of self-defense. I think any martial artist who's worth the salt will tell you that self-defense is not just fighting, but if it comes down to it, you need to know how to throw down. You need to know how to defend yourself in striking, in wrestling, on the ground with weapons. But there's a much broader thing to self-defense than just fighting. However, I decided I've spent most of my life in martial arts, so I want to be able to focus and talk to just those things, just to what it's like to actually get in a hand-to-hand combat situation with somebody else. Over the years, this channel has become a lot more than just that. Now it's where I talk to my friends in the martial arts. You know, maybe I'm interested in jiu-jitsu just for the sake of jiu-jitsu. It has nothing to do with how to protect yourself. It's just, I want to learn a cool thing. Show me a cool thing. So it's mostly focused and targeted on conversations about self-defense. But from time to time, I'll incorporate some things about martial arts in general, just because it's what I love. I love talking about martial arts. I love doing martial arts. It's my full-time job. I run my own school. So any excuse I have to talk about it, to film it, to introduce people to it, that's what Combat Self-Defense is now.
How I found you was you had a brilliant video, and it's titled 3 Best Martial Arts Styles. No, it's not yours. I saw that, watched it. That was one of the first ones that I had to do like a critique video on, a feedback video on. I think it was your video and Ilan's video, like Wing Chun Doesn't Work, and I was like, oh my God, these are phenomenal videos. You got 1.3 million views on that video. It's a phenomenal video. For those who are interested in looking up, it's 3 best martial arts styles. No, comments not yours. You used some humor in there. I can't remember what it was. You had a flash of something in there, which instantly made me laugh. Was it a mom reference? Like your mom reference?
It's
dude. That made me instantly go, this guy's the fucking best. I gotta get to know this guy. But talk about that for a second. Talk about your passion. Like, that's ballsy to do. You got a good sized YouTube channel back then, and you put some controversial shit out there. What was the inspiration behind that video?
The inspiration behind that video, I've spent the last, at this point, 20 years of my life doing martial arts, doing various martial arts, ranging from Taijutsu to Kajikembo. I've done some Wing Chun, done Kali, ended up landing in Muay Thai, which is what I coach now. And at various points in each of those styles, I thought, this is the apex. This is the best it's ever going to be. Until I realized it's not really working in a fight context, in a specific, like, me versus somebody else sparring scenario. It's falling apart if this person does this thing. And so I realized at a certain point, it's not the style that makes the fight. It's also not the fighter. I think a lot of people say that as well, that it's like, it's not the style, it's how you use it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a cop-out. I do think if you go into a bare knuckle fist fight only knowing how to do Tai Chi forms, doesn't matter how hard you train them, you're probably not going to be good at that fight. That's a different conversation. But what I realized was ultimately style, as we call them now, karate, judo, kempo, all these things, and those are names that we give to methods of teaching martial arts. the karate way of teaching fighting is using kata, using kihon, using all these the shouts, the flips. That's the karate way of teaching. The boxing way is bag work, pad work, road work, sparring. That's the boxing method of teaching fighting. So I realized at the end of the day, style is just the way you're being taught. But really what a martial art, what the essence of fighting is going to be condensed down to three things. So I kind of misnamed the video. The video is 3 best styles, but I redefined style within the video, where instead of it being, it's karate, it's Hapkido. No, it's striking, or what I call kickboxing in the video, wrestling, which I really should have called clinching, and then grappling, which is anything on the ground. Those 3 things: striking, clinching, ground. Those are the 3 aspects of fighting. And every other martial art name covers that area, one area or more, to some degree.
What really blew me away is, and I've had this, people tell me this every now and then, is like, your philosophy is more Jeet Kune Do than most. I'm like, don't fucking ever tell me that. I don't want that insult. But you simplified shit to, I mean, nobody. No, there has not been one person online that I've ever seen in the entire time I've been on YouTube that has, and there may be, but I don't know, but who has said it in simplest terms. The striking, grappling, and ground, and striking, clinching, and ground fighting, grappling. And I went, oh my God, this video made so much damn sense. In your journey, like, because I'm a shorter guy, right? I'm 5'7". I started in wrestling. There was no really boxing around me when I was a kid, and I did a couple smokers, and I realized, my God, thank God I didn't do boxing, because I just didn't enjoy it as much. That's why I fell in love with Wing Chun, because of the space that it lived in. So the close proximity space, that clinching space, is my favorite. I love it. Did you, in all of your journey, have you ever found an area, a zone, a system, a style, anything that's been like, man, this is really what I'm the most passionate about? Have you discovered that yet, or what's that journey been like?
I mean, I think it naturally led me towards the striking realm. I really started out with jiu-jitsu as a kid. I was 11 years old, took my first jiu-jitsu class, did not know what I was doing at all. My teachers were great. All my instructors have been great. This guy had the patience of a saint. His name was Phil Cardella. We'll never forget him, but I was the worst student possible. I had zero interest in getting on the ground. I didn't understand it all. So I knew the ground was not for me. From there, I moved on to taijutsu, which is basically clinch work. There's some striking that goes on, but for the most part, it's clinch work. And that was fine. I like the stand-up grappling aspect of taijutsu a lot. I like being able to throw. Judo is a lot of fun for me. When I did that, I enjoyed being able to flip people over, but it didn't come naturally to me. Striking in any aspect of it, whether we're talking about boxing, Muay Thai, karate, Taekwondo, whatever it is, any element of essentially flailing my body at someone else at range is where I have the most fun and feel the most natural.
I have to wonder. There's a running joke that a couple of us in the martial arts community had, which was, if you were black, you grew up boxing. If you were white, you grew up wrestling. Black, you were black or Hispanic, you grew up boxing. So there's a cultural thing with that as well. I don't know what ethnicity you are, but my community and my culture, that's the direction I went, because that's what we did, right? We're white kids. We wind up wrestling. Have you had any cultural experience that kind of put you in that path? That came from Sifu Nick Faruqi, and he's Middle Eastern. He pointed that out to me, and I went, oh my God, I never knew the kind of cultures steer us towards where the martial arts is. Was that ever a factor with you?
I've literally never thought about it until right now, talking with you. But yeah, I grew up striking a lot with my friends as a kid. I'm culturally Mexican American. My family is not as heavy into boxing as a lot of other Mexican American families are. My cousin and I train together, so he's obviously into it as well as I am. But now I'm like, around the neighborhood, we find a set of train tracks or an alley, and we'd either get some cheapo gloves or no gloves at all and just start throwing down. And it was one of those things where it's like, we're going to punch as much as we can, kicks if you want to, but as soon as you grab onto somebody, someone's going to come break you up, because we like punching each other.
Well, if you look at boxers, I mean, you guys, I can't think of any good white boxers out there. I mean, you got the Klitschko brothers for, that's what, 10, 15, 20 years ago. But it's always been dominated by certain cultures. And I think that that's got to be a part of our DNA in fighting. When you I want to hear about your Wing Chun experience, because that's always a great conversation to have with people, right? Because it's my passion, and then you get people, oh, I've got it. What was it? Because we take pride, right, in ourselves of, well, it's a striking art, and we ended in 3 seconds or less, and I've been guilty of saying that shit for years. How was it? What was it like? Did you enjoy it, or were you like, this is shit, dude, I got to get on this?
So I had the benefit of doing Wing Chun after getting my black belt in Kajikembo. The way my black belt worked was my instructor was like, congratulations, you're a first degree, you worked super hard. Now I want you to do nothing to do with Kajikembo for the next 4 or 5 years. You can keep coming to classes, whatever, but I want you to go do something else. I want you to go train in some other style for a while, see how you like it, and then bring back the stuff you like to teach that to us. And I was like, okay, cool. So I floated around for a little bit. The first style I decided that I wanted to try was Wing Chun, because the Ip Man movies had just come out.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I knew about Bruce Lee, all that stuff. So I was like, this is going to be fun. I'm going to do Wing Chun.
Yeah,
I was already I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. That time, that was right when Robert Downey Jr. came out also, and he was training with Eric Oram. And we're like, oh, I remember a ton of us, because we had schools at the time. I had my school back then. And we're like, we're going to get a flood of students coming in the door after seeing Ip Man. And we're like, we get the wrong kind of students that came in after those movies were up. Not saying that you did, but it just, that movie really did nothing for our art. But please continue.
Yeah. So I went to go check out Wing Chun, and I was already somewhat disillusioned with Kajikembo as a fighting system at that point. I felt like, I worked really hard. I learned these cool techniques. I don't know that I know how to fight. And I knew that if Kajikembo was seen as maybe not the best fighting art, Wing Chun, as you know, was seen as like not even worse than Kajikembo.
Why'd you choose
I was like,
it?
I'm not going here to learn how to fight. I'm going here to have a good time and learn how they do things.
Okay.
And yeah, I really loved Ip Man. I really loved Bruce Lee. At this point, I think I was listening to what was the Wing Chun podcast back in the day that Alex Richter did. Whatever. There was a podcast devoted specifically to Wing Chun. So I like the style. I like the Mukjong, all of that stuff. Yeah. I was like, I'm going to do it. I walked in, and it was basically like everyone has ever told me their first experience with Wing Chun was. We learned a little bit of wall punching on the bag to warm up, and then I was put on a form for my first 3-4 weeks.
Yep.
It was one form. I learned 7 moves a day, and that was my entire hour. There was no real stretching, no real sparring. No techniques. It was just, you're going to learn this form for a while, and once you get that down, we'll move you on to something else. I enjoyed it. I could see right away. I remember, you'll know better than I was. There was a stretch that we were doing in the form. I think he was trying to teach me Sudum Tao. I'm not sure, but he wanted me to really take my thumb and stretch it behind my hand like this. And he was like, really stretch that forearm out. Man, I have been to massage therapists. I have been to physical therapists, chiropractors. I have never felt a better stretch than I have putting my thumb behind my hand and letting my arm coil out. I felt the stretch from the tip of my thumb all the way through to my bicep. I felt like years of tension release.
Never done that, and I can't even do that. I can't even get my thumb behind there. We get the
you could see, like, I can't do it, but just the act of trying, it felt super good.
That's insane. I've never heard of that before. What lineage were you under?
I was under Sifu Ian Webb, WEBB. He had 2, what do you call Wing Chun school? Is it Quan?
Yeah, Kuhns.
Yeah. He had 2 of them in Austin. He had one North Austin, one South Austin, and they were both like part of the OG martial arts crew in my city that had been around for decades. I just never stepped into his room.
What was his first name again? I'm sorry. Jeff Webb? Sorry? Is this Jeff Webb?
Ian Webb. I think it was Ian Webb.
All right, let's look at that one up. I'm curious. All right, so why did you stay, right? Number one, I'll give him credit, but I don't personally care for him because people keep asking me to do something on Alex Richter. He's rude to people. He's worse than I am, and he thinks he's better than people. I just don't care for him personally, but his podcast is the Kung Fu Genius. And he's of the Lung Ting lineage. Why did you stick around, right? Because, yes, I just talked about this the other day. Americans, we want instant gratification. Anybody from the East, you tell them stay in this stance for a year and they'll do it because they understand the benefits from it. Why, especially with your age, your generation doesn't seem to like to do hard work. Kung Fu literally translates into a skill developed through hard work. Why did you say, okay, I'm going to be doing this boring stuff for weeks? Why did you stick through it?
That, I think, was the first time that I did a form that was just the form on its own. It was, we're not going to learn 3 forms today. We're not going to learn 7 for you to get your new belt. It's, you're going to work this one thing until I think you're good enough to teach you something else. Now, full disclosure, I ended up leaving not too much longer after that. I stayed maybe 5 months at most, but only because I was a college student at the time. I didn't have a lot of time to myself outside of classes, and I needed something that could also serve as a workout for me. And given that we weren't sparring, we weren't doing any real drilling, I wasn't finishing sweaty, I wasn't finishing, I wasn't really burning any calories. Like, I kind of need something a little more active. So all due respect to the form, I was enjoying it a lot. I was just like, I can't spend my money here and not get something I'm looking for. But if I could do it again now, if I had the time now, I would definitely go back and try to study more Wing Chun. Wing Chun and all traditional martial arts, particularly the Chinese martial arts, I have a lot of respect for, because of that aspect of, we're going to focus on just one thing ad infinitum.
Yeah, well, what's that adage is, I don't fear a man who practices 10,000 things once, but a man who practices one thing 10,000 times. How long did you get to any striking drills, chi sao, anything at all in Wing Chun that made you go, I could see some practical application? Or did you see like the fantasy fu aspect of this? What was your takeaway ultimately from Wing Chun?
The fun part for me was that at a certain point, Sifu Webb was kind enough to say, listen, you shouldn't be doing chi sao quite yet, but clearly you have experience and we're kind of just goofing around with it right now. Come jump in. So I got to do chi sao with some of the higher up guys. And yeah, it wasn't boxing. It wasn't kickboxing. It wasn't wrestling, but I could see, like, I was like, all right, this is a focused version of a certain type of drilling. It's not sparring. It's not fighting. It is a continuous movement flow drill that is more fun for me, I think, than flow rolling in jiu-jitsu is. It is definitely more fun, but it's also very hyper specific to a certain set of movements. But it is one that you could do forever and find different entries, different exits, different ways of executing techniques. So I did a little bit of chi sao, and I was like, this is really fun. This is very good at developing what it wants to develop. But what the pro Wing Chun side of internet will tell you it develops is a little overblown. I'm not going to learn how to fight like this. I'm not necessarily going to learn to defend myself.
Go say anything you want about it, because you're completely right. I do not care. I do not care how much time you spend doing chi sao. If you think post clinch that you're going to use any Wing Chun skill sans a strike coming in, and your sensitivity, your reflex, or this is going to matter, it's not. All of that skill comes in the typical, when a guy's got your wrist in the bar fight. I said a million times, had I had chi sao skill, well, when I was wrestling, I would have been a 4-time state champion. There's no question. And that's why I fell in love with it, because I went from a grappling art first and then went into Wing Chun and went, oh my God, I was so pissed. I was so pissed when I got to chi sao. You're 100% correct, and people keep. I'm gonna be such a great fighter. Chi sao is exactly what you defined it as: fun. And at my age, it's like that's the purpose of chi sao. It's like playing chess. You're playing a game. You don't go in there, I'm not gonna learn to fight. I want its exercise, and it's fun, and it keeps us active, and I don't have to go on the ground and roll on the ground anymore. I get the same like thrill, like when you grapple. It's fun because you're not hurting each other by hitting each other, right? Chi sao is the same damn thing. You're going to get palm strikes. You're going to get a throat grab, but it's safe. It's a safe way to have fun in martial arts. In my opinion, once you understand, and it takes you very quickly to get there, once you understand, oh shit, this is what chi sao is for, great. That's it. You do not need chi sao to develop your fighting skills anymore. What you do need to keep it around for is having fun in martial arts. I'm very glad you said that. Please continue.
I'm glad you said that. That's something I've come to realize, especially in the development of combat self-defense myself. I used to, the character I played on the show, and I'm not saying I fake who I am at all. I heighten my personality on the channel. I don't change who I am. I just heighten my emotions. Yep. Originally, I was very opinionated and rude about, like, if you're not doing XYZ thing, you're wasting your time. You should only be coming to the class and sparring and drilling against resisting opponents. But at a certain point, I realized, like, not everybody has fun getting hit in the face. Not everybody has fun getting thrown to the ground. And what's more important than studying boxing, wrestling, jujitsu, whatever, what's more important than that is having fun doing something year after year, day after day. So if Chi Sao is fun for you and you can respect what it's teaching you, and you sprinkle in a little bit of stuff that will develop you as a fighter, I think that's way more valuable than me trying to force you to do bag work that you hate.
It's the problem I've heard for years is there's no sparring in Wing Chun. And I've put up demos all the time where we spar, we don't put pads on. We just don't, because sadly, and maybe there's some kind of misunderstanding I have. It seems that anytime somebody puts on the boxing gloves and this and that, I don't know what they're developing, because they're going at 30% of what their ability is. Outside of timing, this may make sense. When you're doing Chi Sao in a more aggressive state, one of the things that there is a bonus for, and you can't do it all the time because you have no pads on, is you full strike. The reason why we aim in the chest is because we can go as hard as we want there. So what people don't seem to understand is I'm not going to knock you out unless I'm really lucky with a very well precise palm strike to the chin, blast your nose open. We've seen people in MMA take 10, 15 fucking hits to the face. They're still going, dude. They're still going. With Chi Sao, what we definitely wanted to learn, and it's found in the wooden dummy as well too, is if I'm Chi Saoing with Rob and his center line's open and I palm strike him or blast him with a fist in the chest as hard as I can, what's it doing to me? That's the one thing that I don't see too well in sparring. Because you get that. That's the number one thing people say all the time in my comment section. I don't see any videos of you sparring up. Yeah, you do. You just don't see them with me with gloves or headgear on. But are you guys getting from, it looks like the tap game, right? Put my gloves on, I look cool, and I'm not saying you do this. I see this from other people. I tap you, and they're getting timing. They're getting technique. But is your body really learning what's happening to putting real energy back into your body? Because when you go on the street, you know you're not going to have gloves on. Do you think that just like Chi Sao has given the Wing Chun community a false sense of fighting? And this is my ultimate question. Chi Sao has given Wing Chun people a false sense of fighting. Do you think that a overt emphasis on sparring has given other martial arts people a false sense on fighting? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'm hesitant to answer this fully because I'm actually writing a video about this right now.
Oh, okay. You could tease.
Fuck it, I'll do it.
No, you could tease
I'll talk about it now.
You could tease it and then make sure you go over to combat self-defense for the full answer. But go ahead and give a tease.
I think, like you said, sparring is a way of developing timing, aggression, tactic, strategy, and it's the best way to replicate consensual fighting, as in person A and person B are choosing to fight each other. We both know the terms and parameters. It's the best way to develop that and all the athletic ability required to do those things. If your concern is fighting for self-defense, fighting to protect yourself, or you're even just worried about, like, can my hands handle this pressure? Sparring, like you said, with gloves on, with headgear on, groin protector, not the best way to do that. What I will say, something I've thought about, is how different would sparring look if instead of protecting your hands and your feet, we protected someone's chest and neck and their eyes, obviously. You know, we wear, like, let's say a thick kind of armor with a neck piece and then something to protect the eyes. And you're allowed to unload as hard as you want on the body because it's not going to hurt, but your hands are still unloaded.
Yep.
They're still unprotected. So how's that going to look different?
Yeah, you're going to have the alignment. You're going to know what it's like to hit without pads in your hand. Oh, shit, I bent my wrist. How many people have no idea what it's like to get that you ever have that electric shock spike up your wrist and then go like, oh, damn, I just hit wrong? That's oh my God, is that a horrible feeling? That, or when you get a boxer's fracture from just hitting, I can't tell you how many of those I've had over the years, and they suck. Your hand is friggin' sensitive for 6 months. It's ridiculous. That's a great answer. That's a great teaser. Make sure you go to Combat Self-Defense and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because I've always wondered that, to where you do have to, right? You have to have a good, and this will always be my argument. You have to have a good balance of being able to how to hit somebody and how it's going to affect your body, because I could hit Rob with everything I have. He takes it, the energy goes back into my body and it screws it up. And then while my body is readjusting to try to form a good footwork foundation so I don't get knocked on my ass again, he could already be barreling in on me. So I have to have a clinch game. And then if I get taken out on the ground, I have to have a ground game. Well, then why do you practice Wing Chun? Because in my opinion, based on what I'm able to see in there, it does address all three. And you can 100% can apply that in Chi Sao if done that way. Problem is our art doesn't fucking do it that way. And we produce a shit ton of crappy people who go out there holding out the Mun Sao, Wu Sao guard and get their asses handed to them, and boom, it's Wing Chun doesn't work. Let's talk about what got you into martial arts. Where did you start? Like, where did this passion come from, aside from, busting your friends' heads open on the train tracks?
I mean, that was those friends and it came from TV, right? Power Rangers, the Ninja Boom, the late 80s, early 90s, Dragon Ball Z, watching TV. We were like, that looks like fun. Let's go do it. And then we would do it on the train tracks until someone's mom came and started yelling at us, right? Yeah. For us, it was all good fun and games. We didn't care as long as you don't cry, you don't tell on us. Like, if it's cool, we're going to bust each other up a little bit, but there's a certain line. Now, I think I stuck with it the most because at a certain point, I realized this is the only thing I care about. I like writing. I like all these other things. I like reading, whatever. But the thing I care the most about is hand-to-hand combat with another human being. So while all my friends grew up and started getting work and other things, I was like, I'm going to devote myself to finding the best way to do this all the time, full time. So that in school, while they were growing up, I was the first kid to start doing martial arts. I started doing jiu-jitsu in 6th grade. From there, I moved over to taijutsu, then kajukenbo. And it's basically since age 11 to now 31, so 20 years total, there hasn't been a period of time where martial arts weren't with me. That passion started watching TV when I was a kid, and it literally every day is something that consumes me.
You never got bored with it? You never took time off?
It's so hard to get bored of martial arts because there's so much you could do. I could talk to you right now about Wing Chun for another hour and a half.
I'm always worried that bores people because that's my passion. I'm always, as much as I talk about it, I hate talking about it because I'm worried that it bores people.
Did you ever watch, what is it, Inside the Actors Studio with Robin Williams?
Yeah. Oh, with Robin Williams, yeah. He was one of the few ones I watched with on that.
He's got a great bit where he's doing different impersonations of different celebrities. He does like Leonard Nimoy, he does Spock. I think he did Reagan at one point, but he's doing it like literally snap one character, snap the other character, stop. And it's seamless thoughts, but it's different every time he changes it. I think of martial arts much the same way. Like, we can spend an hour and a half talking about just Wing Chun, just Chi Sao, and then we can have someone snap. Now talk to me about UFC 300. What do you think is going to be the big fight for that? And then we talk about that. Someone snaps. What are the most fun movies you're watching right now with regards to martial arts? Like, there's so much you can talk about, and not just talk about practice. There's so much you can practice with martial arts that for me, I'm like, if you're bored doing martial arts, you're not bored. You're boring.
So you haven't there's a couple different avenues I want to go from here. I want to know what your thoughts are on what MMA did for martial arts, the good, bad, and the indifferent. And then I want to know, like, where I took a 5-year break from everything because the politics, YouTube, everything burned me out. You had said it. This is legitimately me online, but I'm a very high functioning introvert. When the camera's off, I don't talk. Every time I'm in a relationship, a woman will see me online and then we'll connect. And then when she gets to know the real me, she's like, "You're quiet a lot." I'm like, "Yeah, because I'm not performing. I'm just not performing." So the YouTube really put a high demand of stress and the criticism and nobody wants to fucking listen. Everybody wants to say what they want to say without learning. My experience, and I'm very, very guilty of it, is as a martial arts community, all of us seem to come to social media to show what we know and how good we are at things. And all of us say empty your cup, but none of us want to do it. So how do you keep yourself so humble, especially with got a very popular YouTube channel, Combat Self-Defense? It hasn't burnt you out yet. You're producing some great friggin' topics, some incredible content. You're still passionate about it. How do you keep that fire going without letting the external world of political martial arts get you down?
I think part of it is, like I said, I put on a character. I perform when I'm in front of the camera. And the character that I present to my YouTube channel is not humble. I'm very egotistical. I'm very arrogant. I speak with definitive what I believe is the truth. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. And that for me is a way for me to separate the judgment of YouTube politics, of Instagram politics, you know? Because, yeah, I understand my way of training things is not necessarily your way of training things, is not necessarily XYZ person's way of training things. Doesn't mean anybody's right or wrong. They're different. But social media, YouTube, wants it to be a very strong, clear opinion stated as a fact, right? It has to be as inflammatory as possible. And it can be very easy for that to just become your personality. I know people that like that's who they become. But for me, I made a choice of like, I'm going to sound very egotistical here myself. I have very nuanced thoughts about martial arts and about fighting. I'm going to say them as though they're fact, but I know, and the people that watch my videos and watch them over time will know, I don't really have this hard of an opinion. I'm willing to talk and learn from anybody. But the character is that's the joke. The joke is that I say something ridiculous and you get mad about it, but recognize that's not really what I believe. I'm just saying the punchline.
Have you had confrontation from it? Because that cost me. I tell the story all the time where when I first started doing YouTube, I don't know what happened. I had a video that was like my 5th or 6th video I put out, and I was so thrilled. I had like 200 subscribers, and I put a video up that got like 1 million views because I had 4 cups of coffee before I taught class, and I was just me. It was the first time I wasn't calm and pragmatic, and people fucking loved it. And the problem with that is the YouTube channel blew up after that, and I would get people to come to class, and they would operate under the guise of we're here to learn, but they really wanted to test skills. And I'm like, no offense, I'm not here for that. And it was Sifu Ock out of Florida, Justin Ock, who was extremely close. You know, he's my Kung Fu fucking brother. And he said, you're losing students that way. And I'm like, what? He goes, you know, the people who come in to test you, goes, nobody wants to learn from somebody they think they're better than. And I went, what do you mean by that? He goes, my best students are the ones who came in with an attitude, touched hands with me, and left with a cracked rib and a busted lip. And I went, oh shit, you're right. Have you had that yet? Where people, they want to see Coach Rob. They want to come to his school and, you know, and want to shut his mouth up from what he talks online. Have you had that yet?
I haven't. I've been relatively new to teaching I opened Combat Self-Defense while I was already teaching classes, but that was only 3 years ago. Right. And then my channel didn't take off until a year and a half in. So I've got 2 years, a year and a half of being a YouTube personality. Now, people will talk a lot of shit online, telling me how they're going to find me, they're going to come beat me up, whatever. I'm like, that's cool. Here's my address. Come to the dojo. You're more than welcome. As long as you sign the waiver, pay the drop-in fee, let's have a good time. I'm not worried about that happening because it never has, and it very rarely does to anybody that I know. But if it does, I said it in the 3 Styles video. If you show up to my gym and you fight me and you beat me 10 ways to Sunday, that doesn't prove me wrong. Mm-hmm. Like, maybe you don't want to learn from me, fine, but an argument stands on its own feet. It doesn't stand about the person saying.
Well, it actually proves you right if they actually are able, if they beat you with a striking art or a grappling art or what, that proves you right. I'm going to ask because it does stuff for me. I got a few screws loose. So when you get those people who are like, blah, 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 I want to challenge you, I always say, hey, bring 2 people, one to fucking help you sign the waiver and another one to carry you out. I go to a level 10 fucking ego when that happens. And do you ever experience that where like the machismo kicks in and you're like, yeah, fuck her. Come on, let's do this.
From time to time. Absolutely. If my girlfriend isn't sitting next to me when I'm responding, then yeah, that's when it comes out. But if she sees me open up the phone, she sees me start going for the comment, she's like, do not say it. Do not do that.
Well, no. So let's talk about this for a second. Is that part of you that still needs to be there? Because a lot of people talk about the martial arts. It is, it's our passion. We want to pass it along. A lot of us have I always throw myself in this category. Have this faux humility. I'm not a humble person. I'm just not. Do we still need that? Fuck you. This has always been my mentality. You could have a room full of the 100 best martial arts out there. Master Wong could be in there. You could be in there. Sifu Singh could be in there. My own Sifu could be in there. Sorry, guys. I'm the only one walking out. That's my mentality. And I always say, if it's not that, then what am I doing learning a fighting skill? It doesn't mean in the massive world of reality that would happen. But if my mentality is not that I could stand in front of Michael Jai White and just end him, Light Burley. Hey, you're my brother. Sorry, you're not walking out of here today. If my mindset is not that, I am wasting my time. Do you have any thoughts about the mental side of us as fighters that have to have that?
I do, and I 100% agree. One of my mentors, Bobby Maximus. He is legitimately voted by Men's Health one of the fittest men on the planet. Former UFC fighter, former police officer, current just fit man. That's his job now. He has a story that he tells that when he was fighting the UFC, he lost his first 2 fights because he was just so skeptical of himself. So I've already lost this fight. This guy's way better than I am. Then in his 3rd fight, he got himself a sports psychologist. Who said the first step to winning any fight is believing you can win any fight. You have to believe you can always be the best at everything, or else you're going to fail before you even start. And I think us as martial artists, there's a certain type of personality. We have our A-type, B-type personalities. I don't know if this is a C-type or if this is just the uber personality. I think it's drawn to people that have a, let's say, naturally low self-esteem that they boost by doing martial arts. And as they get better at it themselves, regardless of fighting, regardless of anything to do with how they do in fight, by practicing martial arts, their ego is boosted. And over time, either the inside of them grows out or they develop a personality that says, yeah, I'm the baddest motherfucker on the planet. I could beat anybody you throw in front of me, one after the other, with one hand tied behind my back, because you have to believe that. You can know it's not true. You can know physically that's not possible. But you got to believe it to be able to say the things you're going to say to your students.
100%. I absolutely agree with that. We used to teach female cops used to do female seminars on defensive tactics. That was always one of the first questions I asked is like, which one of you in here could take me into custody by yourself? And you'd rarely ever get one who would raise their hands. And I'm like, ladies, you have to have that mentality. There's not one of you that cannot take me into custody by yourself. That's that fight or flight, and you have to win every fight. MMA. I was never, I really don't watch it that much. I respect the shit out of it. I've seen its evolution from no holds barred, big guys with their teeth getting knocked out, to then where it became boring, 30 minutes grappling on the ground. Now it's a mixture of what seems to be boxing, kickboxing, and a grappling game or jiu-jitsu. What do you think has MMA, is MMA separate from traditional martial arts? Number one. And is there a place for them to be married together? And then does MMA hurt or help traditional martial arts? So it's a 3-part question. Are they 2 separate entities? Can they live together? And do they complement each other or do they hurt each other?
To the first part of that question, I think at this point in 2024, MMA is separate from traditional martial art. I think MMA is its own style at this point. It is that combination of boxing, kickboxing, and grappling, like you said a minute ago. That's what it is now. There can be flavorings from traditional martial arts. We have guys like Anthony Pettis, who's doing a lot of Taekwondo stuff. We have jiu-jitsu athletes who are primarily jiu-jitsu athletes, but learn enough about striking to get away with it. But at this point, if you're not boxing, kickboxing, and grappling, and for a large part of people wrestling, you can't do MMA. You can't learn Wing Chun for clinch and then karate for striking and then Shuai Jiao for wrestling and call it good. Like, you have to do MMA. You have to wear the tiny gloves. You're going to work in the cage, do your wall work, do your sprawl work. At this point in 2024, that's what it is. And that's what makes it a sport now. The same way Kyokushin is a sport martial art now. That's what MMA is in 2024. But if we go back to 1993, all the way through to about 2000-ish, back when it was the no holds barred days, when it was guys boxing with one glove on one hand, the other hand empty-handed, half a gi on, that kind of thing. That's when it was the traditional martial arts proving ground. That's when it could be, I don't train to fight. I don't train to get in the cage with somebody or get in a ring with somebody. I just train in this martial art, supposedly to fight. Let's see if that works out or not. Back in the day, it was a perfect way to test yourself as a traditional martial artist. Now that test has run its course. Now it's a new sport.
Do you think can they benefit each other? Meaning, like, because we've seen a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people. Was it Tony Ferguson and Silva? You know, God, what I can't stand is you watch, you know, somebody do a parry, like Silva do a parry. Oh my God, he learned what a Wing Chun Pak Sao is. Like, holy shit, dude, come on, don't be an ass like that. Or Tony Ferguson, which he's doing whatever he's doing on the dummy, and I'm not insulting him, but I'm going, that's really not what we do in this art. Are we finding that like Machito, he was a black belt, I can't remember what art he was in, but
Shotokan.
Okay, yeah, and I know we have John D. Pasquale out here in Illinois, the probably one of the most dangerous fucking men in the planet. I would never stand in front of a punch from him. He's got to be in his late 60s. Been doing Shotokan karate for 50 years, I think. You couldn't pay me to take a punch from that man. Can traditional arts benefit? So let me cross this over. Can traditional arts benefit MMA, and can MMA benefit traditional arts? Those who the person practicing them, if you will.
Yes, I don't think MMA is Anderson Silva pulled off a Bong Sao block, so therefore all of Wing Chun training is now verified to work 100% of the time in the cage. I think it's the other way around. I think because Anderson Silva found a way to make that work, what did he do that worked that time? So the benefit that traditional martial arts can get from MMA is the things that we say we're doing, we can see them happen in real time. So what's the difference between us and them? What are we doing, or what are they doing that we're not doing that we can incorporate? You know, I don't want to speak too far out of turn because I'm not a Wing Chun guy, so I'm going to apply it to Kajikembo, which is more of a karate system than anything else. We saw right away, we have Wonder Boy, Stephen Wonder Boy Thompson. He is a karate guy. He fights in the very wide, low stance. He's very footwork heavy. He showed us that karate can't be done the way it's done in point fighting, where you can kind of just bounce up and down and wait for the exact right moment to back for somebody in the head. You got to be a lot more mobile in the cage because people are trying to take you down. So if karate guys are smart and they want to do full contact fighting, they'll focus less on stationary, wait your turn, bounce in place, and then go, and more about dancing around the floor as much as you can and find the exact right time to explode in. It's being able to work backwards from what you're seeing applied and incorporating that to what you're doing, not trying to see how can I force my way into MMA.
Having both knowledge on both those things, I kind of want to go. I've never asked this before, but I kind of want to. I think this is a question I want to start asking what my guests are. Is, can you define what a street fight is to you?
A street fight for me is basically a sport. It is two people, usually men, possibly under the influence of alcohol, in some way or form, consenting to fight each other, to punch, kick, bite, throw at each other until somebody comes to stop them. The fact that it's consensual very often, and I say consensual insofar as you can remove yourself from that situation more often than you can't. You know, a lot of times we pay lip service to the fact that, hey, if you don't go to a bar, you can't get in a bar fight, but then it still happens. And even if you didn't go out with the intention of getting in a fight, why won't you just walk away from the guy who's picking a fight with you? Why are you talking shit to him? Why don't you stop? If you could see a situation that's going to turn into a fight, it's not you defending yourself. Even if that guy has a broken beer bottle and trying to hit you over the head, you're not defending yourself. You are still choosing to fight somebody. So for me, a street fight is a sport where the consequences of losing are not losing a world title. It's you could die. And the reward for winning is nothing. Holy
shit. That was one of the best fucking answers I never even thought about that. That's going to make me go a different direction here. So does that mean because we always talk about like you and I were consenting. I don't care if it's in the ring, or if it's in a class or if it's a street fight. I have always said that, because the way that I look at a street fight was, the bar fight, angry guy comes up to you, blindsides you, it's out of ambush, and where's your MMA skill because you don't have that time to dance around, all this kind of stuff. The way you just explained it with consensual, I wonder if that changes the mindset and almost waters down somebody's ability and confidence for what a true horrible physical confrontation is, right? The angry guy that's pissed off at you, road rage incident, there's no consent, just comes right at you out of nowhere and boom, starts hitting on you, and your skill sets have to kick in. Are we, for those who are actively looking, because God knows I probably did it too. I worked in a 4 a.m. bar before I became a cop. We loved when the bar fights broke out. I wonder how much damage that did to us and a false sense of the ability to put our martial art into use, because again, that keyword consent. I wonder if when you remove a consent, does that just change the damn game for everything?
I think it does. Credit where credit's due. Elon from Inside Fighting just did a video on Casey Fighting Method. I love his channel because he is much more concise at explaining things than I am, but he has very similar thoughts to what I have. And he said that system. Are you familiar with Casey Fighting Method? Yeah,
it was the one they used for the Dark Knight. That's the one that came out with that. Yeah, so everybody's like, oh, they're using Wing Chun. I'm like, what are you talking about? It was Casey Fighting Method. Yeah.
Yeah. Casey gets a bad rap in the combat.
I think it's beautiful. World. I think it's fucking beautiful.
I think it's gorgeous. But what Elon said is that their guard, the pincer guard, bringing the hands up like this, is very good in a self-defense situation or a street fight situation if you don't consent to being in a fight. And this is something I tell all my students when we're talking about self-defense as well. Your reaction, your flinch response, as Tony Blauer would call it, is not going to be put your hands up and be here. It might be cover your face. It might be do this. It might be something. Your hands are going to come up. If you can develop a guard that is simultaneously a flinch response and a shell to protect you from 90% of threats that are most likely to come to your head or your body in general while you're being threatened, you have now vastly improved your ability to survive, not win, survive that random assault ambush that you were just talking about, because the other guy has already decided he's going to hit you. Not that he's going to fight you. He's decided he's going to hit you. And he's hoping that ambush will be enough to overwhelm you. And it probably will be if you're not ready for it.
You just defined one of the primary things for what Wing Chun training is why we are so hyper focused on the center line and sensitivity. Tony Blauer capitalized off of this in the 90s with his spear system, which if you look at the shape of it, because all of our human anatomies are pretty much the same, it's a Wing Chun Mansao Wusao. And it blows me away. This is why Jin Young had said this years ago, and I think there's a lot of credibility to what he said, which is Wing Chun is taught backwards. You don't learn the spear, so to speak, in Wing Chun until you get all the way to the third form and what's called the 3 bows to Buddha, where you're doing this weird shoot your hands down to the ground, shoot them up, big circular movement and back to center. And that's meant to be a, oh shit, and just throwing shit out forward. And I've always thought, why is that not taught first? That should be the fundamental thing taught first. But what do we do in Wing Chun? Let's wait for Rob's going to feed me a punch, and then I'm going to put a Pak Sao out or a Tan Sao out. Why am I not learning that spear, shooting it forward first based off a body's automatic response system to a blinding ambush attack? Yeah, you are 100% accurate on that. And you and Elon are very, very similar. Very similar. I came across both your channels at the same time. I wanted you on, we've missed opportunities to do this for quite a bit of last year, but he was the first guest we had on the show. I'm glad we have you on this. Let's talk about where your channel's going. So well, 2 parts. So what made you start the YouTube channel? What made you go, all right, I've got something to say, and you said, I'm going to start doing this. And then what made you start? What was your biggest passion about it, and where are you taking it to?
Well, I started in 2020. So you can imagine the major guiding force in my life at that point was COVID. And And we can debate all day long about what that was, right? What that year meant to anybody. But what it meant for me was I was working full time at a dojo teaching Kajikembo and cardio kickboxing. And then all of a sudden, I was no longer able to go to work. And my boss, the owner at that time, he and I have since fallen out, and I have my opinion of him. But one thing I'll say, he did really well. COVID hits, or it's hitting. It hasn't even happened yet. He says it's more likely than not that we're going to shut down for anywhere from 2 weeks to a month. If you can produce YouTube content for our students to train at home, I will pay you exactly what I'm paying you now while you're teaching classes in person. If you teach Zoom classes, I'll pay you by the hour. He's like, I don't want you to not have work to do, so I'll pay you full rate. He already knew. So I went to school for filmmaking. I worked for 5 years as a filmmaker. So he knew I knew how to make videos. So he said, if you just turn around and start producing at-home training for our students, and you could find them if you want to see a very, very underwhelming 30-minute follow-along Kajikembo workout, you can find them online. But he paid me for them. And that fed me for however long we were shut down in 2020. And then we reopened. And I realized, man, I really like filming content online. I'm getting a lot of engagement. I'm having a lot of fun, having to develop what I want to say, how I want to perform. I'm going to keep doing this. He said, great. I'm happy to let you have the dojo in the off hours. You can film whatever you want to do, say whatever you want to say, but I will not be paying you for these videos anymore. However, since you're posting them to the dojo's YouTube, I will technically own the videos. And I was like, hold on a minute. You can own the space here, and I'm thankful for you leaving the door open for me, but you're not going to own my videos. So then it was literally, I sat down at a coffee shop and was like, I need to come up with a name for my new channel, whatever it is. What am I interested in? Combat sports and self-defense. Combat self-defense, that's where it was. And then from there, I was like, great, I don't have to teach workouts anymore. I can now teach whatever. I can teach tutorials just only on how do you throw a back fist? How do you throw a side kick? I don't have to make it a 30-minute workout for a student that can't leave their house. It can be five minutes that you can watch while you're taking a shit. And then from there, I was like, I can talk about any opinion I have, because now I'm not representing a school. I only represent myself. So that's when we got 3 styles. That's where we got all these different things, where now it's more so an opinion channel than it is a tutorial channel. I like talking about martial arts history, about culture, about self-defense theory. Techniques are still there. I'll do them from time to time. But for the most part, I just like to rant. And then...
Go ahead. No, go ahead. You're when we first did it, it was all tutorials. That's all it was. And the biggest channels out there were Master Wong, who did literally an entire syllabus online. Videos are so old, it's ridiculous. And that catapulted him up. You had Ed and Ken, very, very few Wing Chun channels, and my channel started to explode, not from the tutorials, but from the ranting. That was what it was. I didn't see it because I didn't like it. I wanted to be the person talking about the bong sao, the woo sao, all this stuff. And it kind of made me feel clownish to be ranting, but it was entertainment. And I just didn't understand that. So you guys walked in at a great time where commentary was really popular. And on my channel's evolved to where there's still a ton of content out there where I could teach you how to do a punch, teach you how to do a form. But 90% of my stuff in the last year is commentary. And that's what YouTube has become now. It's martial arts on it. So it's a great platform for you guys to come out there. That's why when I saw your video, I went, this is fucking fantastic. It was just the timing of of your content being released during that time. It was like the seas parted and you were like, here, this is it's your time. You were called for it.
I appreciate that. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got was from somebody who watched my channel right when I was doing the transition from tutorial to commentary based. And he said, what I like to do is I used to do these things called bag rants, where I would literally just set a timer, do some work on the heavy bag, and just talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. I was literally ranting. That's what I called them. And he says, I'll join you for the workout. I'll have my timer be your timer. But I just listen to you talk while I work out. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you listen to my techniques? He's like, no, I don't care about your techniques. I don't care what you're trying to teach. I like what you're talking about. And that's when I realized I'm more entertaining. And it's entertainment. It's infotainment, but it's entertainment more than anything. Yep. I'm entertaining more than I'm teaching on YouTube. Yep. People want to have fun. They want to hear something that's going to make them laugh, something that opens their minds. They don't care about how I can teach a roundhouse kick. They want me to say something funny or something entertaining or smart.
I explained that to, we don't talk anymore, but because everybody has a falling out. What you experienced is nothing new. We all experience it, and it's sad. And it's just men filled with egos. When Lenny Sly first started doing videos, he was so uptight. I had him on the camera because he wanted to start a channel. And I said, would you just fucking be you? And the second he was you, and the F-bombs and the intensity and the psychopath came out, everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. And and what's sad is, he wanted to go a direction of teaching not traditional, but his traditional Aikido, it's fucking one of the best in the world. It's literally one of the best in the world. So what his personality did was it got people interested in, all right, here's a guy I will listen to speak about a traditional art that the only other time they ever listen to is when Steven Seagal teaches. So I think that there is something for a strong personality giving credit. I know damn well there's 6 million people who practice Wing Chun. There are probably quite a few people who are better tech. If you had me Chisao with Sam Kwok, I'll get my ass kicked. You had me Chisao with other people, I'll get my ass kicked. Doesn't make a difference. I think that my personality, my background, makes my fighting credit for Wing Chun far more credible than most of the people out there. And I think that's why my stuff puts out there. Let's close out here. We got a couple minutes left. Let's talk about what the direction is from your channel. Give a call to action for your channel again. Tell everyone where they can wind up following it, like it, and let's talk about the future. And then obviously we're going to have you back on for more. But let's talk about where the future of your channel side and what you're focused on.
So the channel going forward is going to go through a slight change. I just got some great advice from you that I need to produce a lot more shorts. So I'm going to start doing that. But I actually sat down at the beginning of this month, the beginning of the year, with my girlfriend, who is my producer. And we talked about, like, let's do something new, something we haven't done. We're not stretching commentary too thin, but at a certain point, you got to do something different. And she said, if you could do what you wanted to do with your martial art training, what would it be? And I said, I want to, and I've always wanted to spend X amount of time, anywhere from 24 hours to, let's say, a year, studying Wing Chun entirely as a student, or Tang Soo Do, Taekwondo, whatever. I want to just experience a martial art that I'm not used to, not for the sake of learning how to fight, because I already know how to do that, but for the sake of learning the martial art. And I feel like I can...
Fuck you. No, I hate you, because you know what you just did? You just sat there and 100% settled an ego problem for me. For everybody keeps asking me, why don't you go do BJJ? Why don't you go do this? Blah, 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 blah. You just answered it. I don't need to go to learn how to fight. I know how to fight. I'm almost 50. I've been doing it for a long time. But for the sake of learning something else, I'm sure that's resonated with some other people. That's never hit a chord with me. Never. You fucking Mr. Miyagi me twice so far on this show. Continue.
So you'll actually appreciate this then. So she said, great, let's make a video series where you're going to go study XYZ martial art for a certain period of time. We're going to follow you training. You're going to interview the instructor. He's going to interview you. You're going to have a cup of coffee and just share theories of martial arts while he's teaching you something new. Maybe you learn a technique and you show it off, but mostly it's just documentary style having fun. So we said we need a name. We need a name for this series, whether it's what we call the actual series or it's just how we project it in our Google Drive. You're going to love it. We have decided to call this project the Emptied Cup Project.
You better get,
because you better, it's kind of a joke.
Dude, you better get that copyright right before somebody else says, oh, this is the greatest fucking thing I've ever heard. Because that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's Coach Rob Rollins. Anybody touches that, we're all coming after you.
Yeah, I can't promise that'll be the last name of it because I know that's a joke. That is slightly tongue-in-cheek.
No, I think it's phenomenal. Because every one of us listen to me, I just acknowledged it. I don't have the emptiest of cups. I don't, right? And you just satisfied, like I don't have any intention to go learn BJJ. I just don't. I love doing Wing Chun. I have no intent to do anything else. I don't want to go learn boxing. I'm not a perpetual student. I've got so many other things going on in life. At this stage, maybe when I'm 60, I'll do something. But no, we all talk, empty your cup, empty your cup. So many of us talk about it, but we don't do it. But we all know what that phrase is. I think it's a fantastic, the Empty Cup Project. I think you do that, you're going to get people go, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. And that's a great, great name.
I'm hoping we can do that. I mean, speaking to the term, I feel like for guys like us who already have a strong martial arts background, it's not empty your cup, it's buy a new cup. It's take what you already know how to do. That's great. Now learn something else. And they can be totally separate. They can be irrelevant things to each other. Because I'm not saying you don't have to learn BJJ if you don't want to. But if you did, it doesn't have to affect Wing Chun at all. It can just be a different activity.
Fuck you, dude. You just did it again, too. Here's the visual. No, here's the visual you created. When you say empty your cup, right? Guys like me get defensive because we're thinking, well, that means I got to throw away what I know. Buy a new cup means I can keep my current cup filled. I'm a very visual person. And that just really made sense to me, to where if you told me, got to empty your cup, I gotta go to another club and, I gotta learn how to punch, with a horizontal fist versus a vertical fist. I don't like that. Well, empty your cup. No, I'm not gonna throw away what I know. No, here's another cup, dude. Yeah, combat self-defense on YouTube. Follow it. This man is far ahead of the game if you're paying attention to martial arts. I am so glad we did this. This has been so overdue. You gave me 3 nuggets today, which are fucking incredible. I'm not going to go do them, but you just gave me 3 nuggets.
Yeah, that's fine. Nobody ever does the advice I give them. That's why it's so wise. You never test it.
My body hurts. I'm not going to go to another thing to learn. Plus,
I do want to say, real quick, just so I can plug myself.
Yes.
There is a pilot episode of The Emptied Cup already on my channel right now. It's called When Karate and Muay Thai Meet, The Ultimate Test. It's my orange belt test under Sensei Dwayne Ludwig at Bang Muay Thai. So if you want to check out like a pilot episode for what the emptied cup might look like, that'll be there. Fantastic. That's the end of me talking about me.
No, we got to
the next thing I want.
Go ahead. Go.
The next thing I want to say though is I want to thank you for having me on the show. I want to thank you for having been a friend since you found my video, really. But then I've been following your content since it first hit YouTube, back when I couldn't find Wing Chun around me. And I was just like, I want to find some YouTube lessons, and I found your stuff. You and I have similar, obviously you do it way better and way more deliberately, the controversial opinions, and just fuck you if you have a different opinion from me. But I also, whenever I see you say like, this is who I am, this is how I talk about things, but you say also, but I do care about people. I want to help people grow. You said it to me. You're like, I want to help you get as much traffic to your channel as possible. Yep. So it's that, as my sensei says, it's iron sharpens iron. Yeah, you're kind of a fuckhead, but it's because you care.
Yeah, I don't know everything.
And
yeah.
So I really appreciate that. I think you do more for the martial arts community than I think you give yourself credit for, particularly for me. I'm really glad we're friends. I'm glad you had me on this interview.
I'm not as bad as people think. It's just, it's a personality they see online. I'm an ass, but
you got to put the personality up. You got to get the clicks first.
All right. Coach Rob Rowland. The channel is Combat Martial. Where am I going to pull up again here? Combat Self-Defense. Combat Self-Defense. That's at Combat Self-Defense on YouTube. If you just type that in for search there. The video that really made a massive difference, that made me go, oh my God, this man is brilliant, is the only 3 martial arts that work. The best 3 martial arts styles. No, it's not yours. Entertaining, engaging, from the editing to the dialogue, the lighting, the video. It's a great fucking martial arts channel, and you should wind up subscribing to it. Other than that, Coach Rob, thanks for joining today. Guys, this is Them's Fighting Words. Hope you enjoy this. Click that link, comment below who you want to see on this next. Not Alex Richter. It's not him, not Philip Redmond. It's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You guys have a great damn day, and we'll see you on the next episode.